Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me today. In today's video, we will be covering the Dragon's Lair. Now, the dungeon with the dragon is the dungeon you're probably going to be farming most often in the early game and mid game because it drops both lifesteal set and speed set, which are great, strong sets for the early and mid game. But because of that speed set, you're going to continue to farm Dragon's Lair forever. There is never a point in the game where you run out of a need for good speed gear. So you're going to get in here early. It's probably going to be the first dungeon you take to stage 20, maybe even the first dungeon you take to stage 25. And then you are going to want to increase your speed on this dungeon until basically you can farm it very, very quickly for dragon tournaments, for fusions, all that stuff, but mostly just for the speed gear that's going to drop from this dungeon. So let's get into the dungeon. We're going to look at the fight. We're going to go over the steps so you know what to expect. And then I'll give you some tips on team compositions, maybe some champions you can bring in there, and some builds for those champions. Okay, before we actually jump into a battle here, we can look over at the artifact drops that do drop from this dungeon. And in addition to the speed and lifesteal sets that I already mentioned, you have Accuracy, Destroy, Toxic Frost, Daze, Avenging, and Stalwart, several of which are actually very good sets. You probably won't use as much early game, but you will use eventually. For instance, Stalwart is a very good defensive set. You may use that against clan boss. Toxic can be a good set for solo champions if you're trying to get some more poison damage onto clan boss. That's another option there. Destroy you need in a couple of places. You don't use that a lot, but you will probably need at least one or two sets of Destroy. And then Accuracy is a good supplemental piece. Because of Perception, Accuracy has really lost a lot of value, because Perception set is so easy to forge in the forge. And so as long as you're getting into the faction crypts, you're going to have a lot of perception gear, but still good accuracy pieces can supplement that perception gear. Also, if you want a champion who has accuracy but isn't too fast, then you also have that option there with accuracy. But the primary set you're going to want here is speed. Okay, so this is the place we're going to be farming speed gear, especially speed boots with the speed main stat. Yeah, so you're going to be in here quite a bit. All right, let's take a look at the boss guide here. And as you can see, the boss actually has 3 attacks, but he has 2 normal attacks. The first one is an AoE that places decrease attack. The second one places poisons and weakens. So having a cleanser on your team is a really good option here. You probably want to have a cleanser on your team in the Dragon's Lair. To remove the weaken, to remove the poisons, and also to remove the decrease attack, because what you want to do is you want to be hitting the dragon as hard as possible. And that's because of this special secret skill here. So Inhale starts the secret skill. So Inhale is simply a full depletion of one target's turn meter, and then it unlocks the secret skill Scorch. And you've probably seen this before if you've been in this dungeon. The dragon kind of rears up on his legs, and he gets a purple bar on his health bar. And that purple bar basically has to be depleted, or when the dragon gets his turn, he'll use Scorch. And a Scorch attacks all enemies and places stun debuff for 1 turn. The skill will be locked and hidden again if the dragon takes enough damage while this skill is unlocked. So if you can burn through the Scorch purple bar, you can actually turn it off and he will reset and just use his normal attacks. Okay, finally here it says Almighty Immunity. That is the passive, which makes the boss immune to all CCs. Even though it doesn't say it here, he is also immune to slows and turn meter control effects. I don't know why that doesn't say it here, but that is part of, I'm assuming, the Almighty Immunity, but you can't use turn meter control on this boss. Okay, so the fight is relatively straightforward. We have 2 waves, just like in Fire Knight's dungeon or in the Ice Golem dungeon. So we have to clear those 2 waves first, and then we can fight the boss. Now, there are 3 ways we talked about dealing with waves in the dungeons if you've watched some of my other videos. The first one is you basically nuke out the waves. If you can hit them hard enough and just kill them before they really get a chance to hit you, that's option number 1. The second option is you can go with some form of crowd control. That could be turn meter control, a freeze, a stun. Slows help you with the turn meter control. You could use provokes, you can use dazes. So anything that basically disrupts the enemy's turns and doesn't let them go, and then you don't have to nuke them out in 1 turn. You can just kind of grind them down. The third option is to tank them up. So basically you get a very defensive team and you survive their hits. Maybe you use shields, increase defense, protection, ally protection, strengthen. You can use counterattack. You can use all sorts of things. Counterattack would help with the damage, not so much with the damage mitigation. but you can use damage mitigations either as buffs or passives that are going to help you survive, mix in some healing, maybe a reviver, and then you can just tank through those waves. That's the slowest version. It's often the safest, especially in Dragon. So you have a lot of different options in dealing with the waves. Remember, when you get to the boss, he has that special skill, right? He has that secret skill that he can unlock. So if you're going with turn meter control in the waves, that's not going to help you on the boss because he's immune to turn meter. And so you have to make sure you hit hard enough to stop that special skill from happening. If you don't, then that could be the end of your run because it does hit hard, but it also stuns you. So that's a problem. Now, if you have someone like Doom Priest who has a cleanse on a passive, when she just takes her turn, she does a cleanse, that can be a really good solution for that particular problem where you can't burn through the purple health bar in time. You're going to get stunned, and then Doom Priest would remove the stun. The other option is you can go tanky with the boss. You can go very tanky. And so I think the nuke out option or the tank option tends to be better here than the CC option because you can't use any of the CCs or turn meter controls or slows against the dragon himself. Okay, so I have put together a team here. I wanted to get a nice free to play friendly team. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm always going to have Deacon Armstrong in the lead because he's such a versatile champion and he's built really well for me. So this is my best built champion almost on my account. There are a few legendaries I have who are probably built better, but he's probably the best built epic on my account. And then I have 4 other champions here. I picked 2 starter champions. I would not recommend leveling up 2 starter champions to 60. I just wanted to show that you could do this with pretty much any kind of damage dealers that you have. So in this case, we have 2 AoE damage dealers. My Elhain is in a stun set, so she's not going to hit particularly hard. And my Athel is in a bunch of perception, so she's really built to land her weaken and not hit hard. So neither of these champions are going to be hitting particularly hard. I have a Runekeeper Dazzdirk here. What I wanted was I wanted turn meter boost, increase attack, and a cleanse. And he brings all 3. I know he's an epic void, but you can see he's only to level 50. So you can certainly get those 3 roles out of more than one champion. They don't all have to be on the same champion. You could bring somebody else in here. You could bring High Katoon or Apothecary, who's going to give you some of that. And then maybe with the other champion, you could bring a cleanse. I'm also bringing in Rector Drath here, who is an amazing healer. She's going to give me some damage mitigation because she puts up a veil on, I think it's a perfect veil, on the entire team, and therefore they take less damage. Perfect Veil gives you 15% damage mitigation, I believe. She's also got a revive, but again, you can see she's level 50 as well. The last thing she brings is a decreased attack on her A1. It doesn't have a great chance of landing, but if we can decrease the attack on the boss, that just gives us more chances to survive. So for stage 20 here, this is not going to be a fast clear, but it is certainly a clear that we can do with no legendaries, and even with 2 level 50s here. And again, with damage dealers who aren't amazing. So I'm just going to show you very quickly the team setup. Here's the team setup. So no AI on anybody. You can put AI in if you want to improve your speed or increase your chances of survivability. But I think we're going to be totally fine with what we've got here. Just a quick rundown of the stats. If you've seen my Deacon Armstrong, he's got decent stats here. I do have some area bonuses from Live Arena. So that increases my speed and my defense and my attack, my crit damage a little bit. All of those things are being increased here. If we look at the Runekeeper Dazzdirk, not built particularly well, 2.6k defense. So he's tanky enough with 40k HP. He shouldn't die even at level 50. His speed is pretty good, 237, and just enough accuracy, you would think, to land his debuffs, but he only has 1 debuff, and that's a leech on his A1, which is a same thing as Deacon Armstrong, who has a leech on his A1. So we're going to have a leech out there. That's just another thing that can help us stay alive. Our Runekeeper Dazzdirk also gives us the increased attack buff and turn meter fill, and then he gives us a heal and a cleanse with continuous heals here on his A3. Elhain, you can see decent attack at 2,700. That's really not that high. Does have 100% crit rate, only 175 points of crit damage. A little bit of accuracy and resist. Neither one of those are going to play. They're just on her stats. Again, she's in a stun set, so that might give us a little bit of control with the waves, which is not bad. Athel is built a little bit better, right? More attack. You can see a little bit more crit damage, not a lot more crit damage, and then a lot of accuracy. So again, not going to be hitting super hard, but definitely hitting harder than Elhain. She's our main nuke. Rector Drath is not built all that well, actually. 37k HP, 2000 defense, 220 speed is decent. She has enough accuracy to land her debuff on her A1, which is a decrease attack, but that's her only debuff. So I don't know why I have all this accuracy on her. That's strange. I haven't even looked at this Rector Drath in months. She's a great champion, by the way. You should look at her, but I just got her very late in my account and I really didn't need her. So I threw her on this team just because I wanted to play around with her a little bit, but I actually haven't even looked at her build. Okay, so that is it for the team. Let's go ahead and run this. Now, the big question for me is somebody going to die and is Rector Drath going to need to revive them? I'm not sure that anybody's going to die, but it's certainly possible, especially if we miss all our stuns on the waves. But I think we're probably going to do enough damage here. Yeah, we get a couple of stuns from Elhain. So we're probably going to be just fine here on stage 20. If this was stage 25, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't survive with this team. I don't think this team has enough to do stage 25. It would be close. And I think this team composition could work. And if Elhain and Athel were built with a little bit more damage and Rector Drath were, say, 6 stars, then I think that this team composition could do stage 25. But as they are, built as they are, at the levels that they are, I don't think that they would be able to do stage 25. But I'm going to assume we're going to probably get through this in maybe 3.5 or 4 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. It's hard to say exactly. It depends if we land all our debuffs on the first round. And it also depends if the boss stuns us or not. As you can see, we're not having too much trouble with these waves, but we are taking a hit on occasion. And so our 2 healers are getting a little bit of work here. Runekeeper Dazzdirk has a heal, and then obviously Rector Drath has a heal as well. All right, we are through to the boss in 1:30. Not fast, but not awful, right? Especially as this is a full auto team right now with 2 50s. We landed our debuffs. We got our weaken out there. We don't have our decreased defense yet. We have our decreased attack, which is nice. So that's going to make us much more survivable. We also have a leech out there. There's the purple health bar with the special attack. We have to burn through that or we're all going to get stunned. Without the decreased defense, I'm not sure if we're going to have enough damage. It's going to be close. We missed the decreased attack twice. Remember that Deacon Armstrong is weak affinity here. Yeah, so we got stunned, but that's fine. We survived. And even if somebody dropped there, we have Rector Drath to bring us back. The decreased attack definitely helped us there. There are the poisons. Hopefully Runekeeper Dazzdirk will cleanse us. He didn't have his cleanse available. We finally got the decreased defense out there. The leech is doing work for us. We're all, healing very well. One of the things to remember is that my damage dealers, I think both of them do have War Master or maybe Giant Slayer on Athel. But so they will heal quite a bit if they land those procs with the leech up. This run is definitely a little bit slower than I expected it to be. I think that first round where we got stunned really threw us off the rhythm and maybe like sort of disconnected what kind of speed tune we have. We don't have a speed tune, but when you get stunned, you lose that cycle and then the boss can kind of just get an advantageous turn sequence. And I think that's what happened there. I think we're going to get it's going to be very close. Do we get enough damage to stop the boss here? Nope. We get stunned again, but that's okay. You can definitely survive stuns, especially if you're tanky. This is just proof that you can go that tanky route because this is not it's not a weak team. Certainly Rector Drath is giving us a lot of survivability. And then, most of these champions have a decently high health pool. So yeah, and there we go. What was it? 4 minutes and 10 seconds. That's a fairly long time, but again, full auto, definitely free to play friendly. We've got 2 level 50s here. not the best gear on our damage dealers. You can do this a lot faster at level 20 with your starter champion and one other damage dealer and just a couple of supports like we have here. You know, obviously this is 3 supports, 2 damage dealers, but, you know, going pretty fast. And that's a big thing here because we get all of those heals to come around very quickly. So we're always constantly healing ourselves up. And again, even if one of our damage dealers dies, we have that revive. And so I do think a revive is worthwhile in bringing into the Dragon's Lair or any of the dungeons if you can have it make sense in your team composition. So the decreased attack on the Rector Drath and the damage mitigation, plus the heals, plus the revives, just makes her like a perfect support champion for this kind of dungeon. Okay, now let's take a look at stage 25. Now, if we look at the boss guide, you'll notice there's only one difference. And the one difference is that damage from skills that scale based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10% of the boss's max HP when attacking the boss. So if you're using a Cold Heart or a Royal Guard or a Husk or any of those champions that do damage based on max HP at stage 20, they're not going to be as valuable at stage 25. You could still use them. You certainly could, but you're going to get more value probably out of poisoners or maybe HP burners at stage 25. One thing to remember is that the boss is changed affinity, right? We are now at force affinity. So all of a sudden, my damage dealers are going to be very weak against force affinity. So I don't want to run this team against this affinity of boss. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 substitutions. I'm going to pull out Elhain and I'm going to pull out Rector Drath. And in Rector Drath's place, I'm just going to put Syl of the Drakes. Here she is. So I still have the heals. Now they're passive heals, so that's nice. I lose the damage mitigation from the Veil. That's a little bit unfortunate, but obviously my Syl is level 60. She's much better. She's built much better, so she has better gear. She's going to be more survivable. In addition, she has an AoE stun, which is going to help us with the waves. And she also has a slow, which can help us with the waves. Remember, the slow doesn't apply to the boss. She still has the single target revive, just like Rector Drath does, so we're not losing that. And now in the place of my pretty weak Elhain, I'm going to bring in a much better damage dealer for bosses, and that is Venom Mage. Now, if you don't know Venom Mage is a pretty amazing epic poisoner, and I'm a big fan, and so I'll just show you my Venom Mage here so that you can see her build as well. So here's my Venom Mage. My Venom Mage is built very, well, not super well. I'm kind of on the road towards a solo build for Venom Mage. You can see not everything's glyphed. I don't have necessarily the best accessories out here. They're all just regular accessories. But if we look at her stats, you can see 55,000 HP, 3,700 defense is almost where I want it. I want it around 4,200, maybe 4,500 if I could get it there. Speed's a little bit lower than I would like at 207. I would like to see it maybe around 220. That would be perfect. And I'd also like to see the accuracy somewhere around 300, maybe 320, 310 or 320 would be perfect. But everything else is basically what I need. You know, the HP is very nice. So she is in regeneration and immortal. She's tanky. She's going to be very survivable. And so she's still going to do more damage than Elhain, even in this tanky build, but on the boss, not on the waves. So it's going to be a little bit slower on the waves, but it's going to be faster on the boss. And probably it's going to end up being a similar time to what we just saw at stage 20 with Elhain. So I'm guessing somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes is the most likely outcome here. And again, this is going to be full auto. I'm not even going to put anything into the AI. I'm just going to let this run. I'm going to let you watch it. I don't need to commentate this one. Just go ahead and watch what Venom Mage does. If you don't know about her kit, by the way, she does have a passive that provides some damage mitigation when the enemy has a poison on them. I think it's a poison, might be poison sensitivity. So she is giving us, she is replacing the mitigation that we lost from the Perfect Veil of Rector Drath with that passive. And then obviously she does most of her damage based on the poisons. She also has a decreased attack, so she is also replacing that from the Rector Drath. So between the two champions that we've swapped in for Rector Drath, we're covering all of the bases basically, and pretty much, you know, we've gotten stronger champions that do the same exact things as we had in our stage 20 team. All right, so watch the rest of this fight. and then I will come back at the end. Okay, and there it is. 5 minutes and 41 seconds. So it was a little bit slow here. I thought it would be a little bit faster. I wasn't really watching this, so I don't know if Athel died a whole bunch. Sometimes that could happen, or maybe Runekeeper Dazder died and still had to bring him back. That might have slowed it down a little bit, but hey, full auto, no problem. Walked our way through it. And we even got an accuracy piece with accuracy, but I don't need it, so I'm going to sell. So pretty good here. Now, I want to show you something in addition to this. So I do think that this is a relatively free-to-play friendly composition. Obviously, Syl is a free champion. Athel's a starter champion. Deacon is a champion you can get from a code, or he's just a regular epic. Runekeeper Dazder is a void epic, so that's a little bit harder to get, but you don't need him in this team composition. You could just use a Doom Priest. She would be a little bit easier to get here. And then she would provide you with the increased attack and the cleanse, both of which he does. You would just lose a little bit of turn meter. And then Venom Mage is just a regular epic, again, not a void epic, so relatively easy to get. And you don't need Venom Mage. You can bring in any second damage dealer that you like. I like poisons for boss fights. I just think they're cool. I think Venom Mage is a fun champion that I don't get to run that often. And so I wanted to bring her out and just show you this team composition. All right, now I'm going to show you something really cool, though. If you are watching this video the day it drops, or maybe the day after, we currently have a Dragon tournament going on, and we also have a champion training tournament, I think, or event going on as part of the Ultimate Death Knight birthday celebration, the Titan event that's going on. So if you're in here doing the Dragon dungeon, right, and you want to try to extend, get the most value for your resources possible, one of the things is you can solo this dungeon or duo it or trio it, and then put food champions in the remaining spots and level them up while you're farming the dungeon. So that way you are kind of triple dipping or quadruple dipping on your energy. You're going to be getting the drops from the dungeon. You're going to be getting the points from the Dragon tournament. You're going to be getting points for the champion training event. And you're actually going to be building up the food champions that you need to then advance other champions. So that's at least a 4 times dip there, a quad dip. So definitely worth trying to find a composition maybe that you can use in order to, solo, duo, or trio the Dragon dungeon. I actually think this is the easiest dungeon to do that on. And we already have the champions that we need in this team composition. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop these 3 champions, and I'm going to hold on to Syl of the Drakes and Venom Mage. Venom Mage could probably solo this dungeon on her own if I had her built a little bit better. She's not quite there, but with Syl of the Drakes, this is going to be a very easy duo. Now, neither of these champions have a good lead aura. This is just accuracy. I don't need any additional accuracy. So I'm going to look for a food champion that has an aura that I can use. So defense, HP, or speed in dungeons or all battles. That's what I'm looking for. I guess resistance would be okay if I had to. All right. So I forget this Broodlord, I think this guy's name is. Defense in all battles. That's just going to make these 2 champions more survivable. I don't really want attack on the aura because I'm not doing damage based on attack anyway. So this will make them more survivable and make Syl of the Drakes hit a little bit harder. So that's good. Now let's find a couple of food champions. We'll use these 3 stars that I'm leveling up. And now we're just going to let this go. Okay, now one of the things that's going to happen here is obviously these food champions should die over and over again. And Syl of the Drakes is going to bring them back with her revive. Now you can turn that off in the AI if you like, if you find that annoying. I actually don't mind it because what I find happens is the enemies typically attack your weakest champions. And so these champions keep taking the attacks that would otherwise go to my two, strong champions. And so when Scylla of the Drakes brings somebody back, they just become the target again. They die again. And that's fine. It actually just makes it a little bit easier, but it does slow things down to have that revive constantly happening. So if you want to turn it off to maybe speed up the run and save yourself 20 seconds or something, you could definitely do that. You can see how fast they burned through that wave. One of the nice things is there are fewer animations when you're running a duo because most of your champions aren't getting turns. So the strong champions are just getting more turns sort of per minute. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're not actually moving faster in terms of speed, but there are fewer champions that need to take turns. And so there are fewer animations you have to wait through. And so your strongest champions are going over and over again. You can see that Venom Mage is healing herself with her regeneration gear. She's also getting healed by Scylla of the Drakes. Nobody's even attacking Scylla of the Drakes. And so she's just, hitting them for decent damage, not a lot, stunning them, slowing them. And now we're on to the boss. Now, in this boss fight, we will never burn through the purple bar, so the secret skill will always go off. But between our regeneration sets and our passive heal on Scylla of the Drakes, we'll just ignore the stun and we'll just keep going. So we'll be plenty fast enough. Yep, and look, we're still at full health. And again, this is going to actually be a relatively quick run because we don't have to wait for the animations of all the dead champions. They're just gone. And occasionally when they pop back up, they get killed really fast. They're probably too slow. They have no gear on them, so they're too slow to even get a turn in most cases. That was an unfortunate turn at that moment, but usually they won't get turns. Or not too many turns. And so, you don't have that slowing down the run. That was a lot of damage there. But you'll notice Venom Mage back up to 100% health really quickly. And Scylla of the Drakes is doing just fine. We've got that decreased attack, decreased defense, poison. A lot of things out there, a lot of debuffs out there that are good for this fight. Venom Mage brings a whole lot to the table. And there we go. 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I think that was faster than the run we did with the full team, which was like almost over 4 minutes. So actually doing stage 20 here is even faster because like I was saying, you don't have to wait through all those extra animations. Okay, so that is it for the Dragon's Lair. You can find a team probably pretty early on to farm a high level of Dragon's Lair. Like I said, it's going to be the first dungeon typically you take to stage 20 or also to stage 25. Without the need for turn meter control on the boss, it's generally better to avoid a lot of turn meter control in the waves and just go either for that nuke option to burn out the waves and then burn out the boss so that he never gets his special ability off, or to tank it up, just go slow and survive both the waves and the boss's special ability and just burn it down that way. Unlike the spider boss, the dragon boss does not increase damage over time. So when the spider boss consumes her spiderlings, she gets an increase in attack. And like the ice golem has that extra ability that does more damage if you accidentally lower his health too fast and he has his minions up. The dragon doesn't have any kind of damage increase ability, just that special attack. So if you can shortcut it, you can just cut it off where you can negate that attack, or you can just tank it. As long as you can take it the first time, you're probably going to tank it every time. You're going to be just fine. All right. I hope you found this helpful. I hope this helps you out with the Dragon tournament that is up for UDK's birthday Titan event, whatever that is called. And if you can even solo or duo here, if you have Scylla of the Drakes and Venom Mage, you've got a duo that you can run in Dragon's Lair. So yeah, consider that duo to get yourself even more value for your energy in the dungeon and get some points for the champion training event. All right. If you've liked this video, please hit the like button or go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications when I upload new content. Also consider joining our Discord community. The link will be in the description of this video. Thanks so much. I've been Colred. I will see you in another video soon.